When I opened up the and I looked at so is there anything you can explain about what I saw there?
That shouldn't have been visible.
Right, okay. That's all. Sorry, say no more. Don't worry. Hello, Internet. Taliesin here, and I am here with, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
My name's Jesse Kurlancheek. I am the lead on housing.
And I'm Rachel Bussone. I'm a game producer on housing.
I've got my questions in a couple of different sort of themes, really. Half of them are sort of involving things that we've just been playing with and seen ourselves, and some of them are more kind of philosophy based. One of the things I noticed as we were just playing through this was that all the books are kind of individually placeable and individually movable, but there was one, the story of the world tree, that was in there that was interactable, and when we clicked on it, it was readable, and it's one of the readable books from the game. And that obviously makes us think, are we going to be able to build a library with books that we collect from the game and take them off the shelves and read them when we want to?
That's a good question. I would say that's something that is a possibility and something we could probably add on to more. I don't know if we have anything right now planned for that specifically, but I know it was one thing that we had available. But there will be some objects that will be interactable like that. So yeah.
Did you see the secret door?
Yeah. Yeah, the floating books too. You can definitely have a cool library.
I'm assuming that all the interactable elements of the decor is something that you'll be getting a lot of questions about. And I think there's a real appetite from players to have items in the houses that are interactable, and there was some like lights being able to turn off. There was the secret bookcase door that you mentioned, which is just like so imaginative and great. There's things like guillotines and what have you as well. And of course, the first thing I did was I made myself a jump puzzle over some lava. I noticed we couldn't hurt ourselves at all, and I know WoW players, and I know that they're going to want to make death rooms and dungeons for their friends to join in. Is that going to be something that's possible, and how possible will it be?
I think we're really excited to see what emerges from players. One of the first things someone did was make a jumping puzzle. Great, right off the bat. But what else do players want to do? They want to kill each other in the basement?
Yeah.
Not an uncommon desire, apparently, after listening to people here today. But how can we take that desire and make it something that's reusable? How can we make that something that players want to interact with? Right? You don't want to go down into your basement and just die. Well, okay, again, I don't want to make many guesses for player behaviors, but what can we do that let players express their creativity? What can we do that makes them excited to invite friends over? Mm-hmm. They're like, hey, come check out my, bouncy bedroom, whatever it is.
What you promise.
Yeah, but it's like, what are the interesting things that players are going to want to do? And how can we react to those things? How can we sort of say, oh, this has been getting a lot of traction. What can we build that lets them express that further? And
as you mentioned already too, like the parkour courses, like all of those things, I think people will come up with really creative ideas that we didn't even think of. Even now, just seeing what people were making in the demos, like everything was so different. So it will be interesting to see what players do.
Yeah, I've seen Onyxia's head on a spit over a roaring fire already today. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. You just brought up inviting friends to the houses and see. And I wonder if you could give any clarification on what the thinking behind how open people's houses within a neighborhood are going to be. Will there be an option to just let anyone come in? Will it be by invitation only? Is that something that you've thought about?
Yes, 100%. I think, you as a player feeling safe in your own home is almost paramount, right? I don't want things happening in my house that I have no say-so in, right? I want to invite my friends. I want to invite my guildies. I want to invite my community, my neighborhoods, whoever it is that I want in my house. I should be able to have them in my house. And I should also not be able to have people I don't want. If I want to be a hermit on the hill and have no one bother me ever, great. That we should 100% support that. But you being safe and feeling comfortable in your house is a top line for us.
Will there be the option to have like an open house?
If that is safe to you.
One of the items that was available to place in the house was a weapons rack. There was one based on the floor and one based on the wall as well. they were empty weapons racks. Do you have any thoughts on how we might fill those up?
That's a good question. I don't know if we can get into it.
I was like, I have so many thoughts that we can't talk about.
Yes, but it's a good question. We can't really go into it right now, but hopefully soon we can talk more about it.
I think the important thing is you are able to show off your achievements, like little A achievements, things you've done, things you've collected, your pets, your mounts, all of these things. We want your house to be a reflection of your character or you as a player. If you want to have your spooky dungeon room downstairs, and you want to have your trophy room upstairs, and you want to have, these different vibes for your different rooms, we want to support that.
I just want to throw in the idea while you brought that up of
which one
of having trophies for PvP and Mythic Plus titles that we can actually display in our trophy cabinet or on our shelves. I just think that would be neat. That's not a question. Just putting that in there. I'm sure you've all thought of it already.
The very sanitized answer there is we want to meet you where you are. Mm-hmm. So if you are an M plus player, if you are a raider, if you are a PvPer, if you are a crafter, whatever you sort of choose to engage with in WoW, we want to also make that a part of housing.
Well, that's good because where I am is an incredibly high-level Mythic Plus player. I don't know if you know that. No, but the great thing is the scaling tech in there is fantastic. Like at the moment, you can make things very, very tiny or very, very big. So I only need one trophy that I can make very big to fill out the entire thing, and that's going to be great. Just a couple of questions with some technical stuff that I noticed as we were going around. The windows look great. There's fantastic lighting effects coming in through there. Will those lighting effects be time of day sensitive? So will it sort of turn to night or dusk outside?
No, they won't be time sensitive. I don't think that's something that we will have available and something we didn't feel would be really good to have. So, yeah.
It sort of takes your control away.
Sure.
If you are an EU player or if you are, playing in the US, like locking your windows to time of day, you're like, no, this is my spooky room, bro. Why does it get sunny in here all of a sudden? Or like my breakfast nook is always raining. Yeah. That's not great. And so being able to sort of have control over those things is important.
Might different windows have the options to have different qualities of light coming through, that kind of thing?
Conceivably.
One of the things that people will be really, really happy to see is the amount of different themes of Decor in there. Before, we'd seen folk, we'd seen
opulent and rugged.
Yeah, exactly. I know one in particular that a lot of people will be breathing a sigh of relief over is a Blood Elf one, right? And there's lots of Tauren themed things in there and what have you. Are there themes that aren't in there at the moment that you're planning on being there in release?
Yeah, there's actually going to be a lot. We're going to try to have a big variety of things right away. We know players will have various fantasies of different races or classes and stuff that they'll want to see. So we're trying our best to provide a very big, wide range of things and various different types of items as well. It's something we put a lot of time into, and it's something that we definitely want to see what players are going to want and try to add to it over time. And so you will have the new decor, that's all of the dyeable and customizable items, but then we'll also have a lot of the stuff we're pulling from that's already existed from the game, and that stuff won't be customizable, but it will come from a large variety of different things.
If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you some questions about just what you're thinking about various sort of aspects of player housing. Some clarification on exactly how many houses per account are going to be available. The ways it's been worded in different blue posts, I wouldn't say it's contradictory, but it's not entirely clear. Is it going to be one house for Alliance on per account and one house for Horde, or will it be a player house available for every character on your account?
Yeah, so you'll have one Alliance house, one Horde house.
You mentioned that the neighborhoods are instanced, which makes sense. Will there be a loading screen to get into them, or will you be able to, for example, just fly from Stormwind into the neighborhood with sort of minimal kind of interruption?
TBD.
And likewise, houses, loading screens when you go through the front door or whatever?
Loading screens in the front door.
Okay.
When you go in, yeah. Because on the inside of your house, we just break all the rules of physics.
Yeah.
And so you can have a gigantic house, 10 rooms, multiple stories, and connecting that to the real world wouldn't be possible.
We've seen some great shots of neighborhoods from the outside, both the Horde one and the Alliance one. They're beautiful. I can't wait for people to see them. They look absolutely stunning, even at this early stage, and just what everyone wants. But there's some things that we've noticed about them. There seem to be properties, plots, I guess, that are very secluded away from everything. But there seem to be plots which are much more urban, I guess you'd say, and sort of very close together in a sort of a town centre. Is that what you're going for? So there's a great breadth of being able to choose where in the neighbourhood you are?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges of housing is to satisfy as many people as we can. So you could be, the old man Withers up on a hill in his little spooky haunted mansion. We want to support that. You could be a group of 3 or 4 friends who want to live on a little cul-de-sac, the suburbs, effectively. We want to support that. You want to be close to the hustle and bustle, and a bunch of other players. We want to support that. And so having a wide variety of layouts and locations, as well as biomes. So, you could see in the Horde neighborhood, there's like the coastal thing, and it's like the trolls. You could see a troll living there. You could see the Taurens living up on the mesas. You could see, the Ajara trees and stuff. And you want to be able to find a place that sort of appeals to you, or your character. And so we've been very focused on having a wide variety of placements, biomes, and so on.
And just to clarify, in public neighborhoods at least, players will always be able to get whatever plot they want. There's never going to be a kind of a scarcity of that.
In public neighborhoods, yeah, you will basically wait for the neighborhood that you want, or the plot you want to spin up in a neighborhood at some point. In private neighborhoods, if you are in a guild together and we both want, plot X, yeah, that's
duel.
That's a problem for us to solve, not the game.
Sure. Something that we can't experience with just our eyes and our fingers, which we've been using today, is what it sounds like in there. Will players have any control over background music or anything like that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if that's something we can really talk about right now, but it is something that we've discussed before.
Providing you with the tools to customize your house, like you said, sound is important, sight is important. The view, right, is like I have a vibe I'm going for, and that is going to encompass more than just any single thing.
I think one of the things that is often cited as being one of the reasons Garrisons maybe didn't work out as people hoped was the amount of and the abundance of kind of functionality, the herb gardens and the mines and things like that. There are so many items which seem to be interactable in the house, like the mirror and crates and things like that. Is there any thoughts that you might include some kind of player function, like maybe transmogging at mirrors or keeping things in crates or things like that?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty narrow line to thread there. What becomes player power, which there will be none of in housing, and what is quality of life, or what is fun interactivity, right? Is like, do I feel, the barber toy, I can't remember the name of it, but the toy that's a barber shop, that's sort of more in the middle. And so we're actively discussing like what is precluded from being in neighborhoods, what is precluded from being in houses, versus what is something that makes sense, what is something that players expect and want. And, part of that is also going to be how it, ends up being used. Like I said at the start, is, does everybody want to transmog themselves at home? I don't know, maybe. And we can sort of explore that when it comes up.
I know this is something you're bound to talk about later on, but you mentioned progress, both from like a personal point of view and a neighborhood point of view. Is that something you're able to expand on now in any way?
Not that'll be especially satisfying to you, I suspect. But I think we can talk about it at a high level. Right now, if we prog a tier, it's whatever, 4 months, 6 months, depending on, your sort of commitment or whatever. But our neighborhood can progress over the course of days, months, years, potentially. What that means to different players in different neighborhoods, I think is, again, up to them. So if our neighborhood is, gung-ho and we want to be the Wintervaliest wonderland in all the world, that might be something that takes a little while to set up. That might be, if we're only getting this many Wintervale decorations at a time, what does it look like over the course of days and weeks and months? And so when you think about neighborhood progression, it looks at stuff like that. It looks at like, oh, what does our block party look like on day 1 versus what does our block party look like on day 60 versus what does it look like next year?
So would it be fair to say you're thinking about perhaps having people contribute in some way through gameplay towards upgrading what stuff looks like from the outside?
Or not even necessarily in terms of gameplay, but in terms of just like my collection is big now after 2 years versus, when I first move in, I've got whatever, a couple dozen or a couple hundred things. And so what does it look like when we all have, Onyxia heads mounted on our roofs, or what do we think about, we mandate that everybody's got to display a big orange tree in their front yard.
Sure.
And one of the things that's interesting, I think, about neighborhoods, is our neighborhoods are going to diverge, right? My neighborhood with my guild is going to look different than your neighborhood with your guild, will look different than your public neighborhood, will look different than your friend's neighborhood. And seeing that progress sort of from an initial starting point and sort of everybody splaying out, is fascinating to watch.
Does that mean that will neighborhoods be just player houses within the space, or will there be more kind of what you might even describe as public amenities or public buildings, like, for example, a tavern or something like that, where people can use them as meeting spots or things? I've seen in the film there's little fishing spots and nice walks and things like that. But will there be kind of like central meeting areas like that?
It's a great question to ask me in some number of months down the road. You'll be hearing more about neighborhoods,
of course,
in the coming weeks and months. But I think the question of how are we all contributing to this thing, how are we playing together, how are we building together, I think is super exciting.
I can tell you're just really proud of your team and of the work that you're doing here. And this office, which I don't think anyone really understood obviously what it was all about before, where it turns out it's just been dedicated to player housing, essentially for the last however long, and this kind of hub of creativity here. It's been mentioned that these will be the only 2 neighborhoods we have for the foreseeable future. Will there be a 3rd or 4th neighborhood in the future? And do you know what that one is going to be?
So we're focused on launch right now. I think sort of your earlier question there, in terms of what we're most proud of, in terms of what we're most excited about. We've had a lot of people working very, very hard, and everybody has their own sort of this is the thing that I'm hanging my hat on, and this is the thing that I'm super excited about. From watching, y'all today, from talking to the people at PAX this weekend, the amount of excitement, I think, was I knew people were excited about housing. I knew I'd watched the videos, I'd read the posts, but it hadn't really hit me. And so that makes it all the more exciting. And to get it into people's hands and to see what they do with it, to see what they want with it. I was saying earlier, part of our roadmap, part of our schedule is very explicitly carved out chunks for feedback. Hey, we launched and we saw that players really like this, or this wasn't hitting well, or, whatever. We have time in the schedule, not just to make the new features, not just to make the new cool parts that we want to add to housing, but to respond, to be oh no, this feature is actually way more popular than we thought. What can we do to highlight whatever it is? I think, talking about additional neighborhoods falls into that bucket of players are really excited about this or that, but the other thing, what can we do to support whatever it may be? So we're trying to stay really flexible.
Do you have an idea what it would be?
I have a very, very, very long list. At the PAX panel, I think I mentioned something, the fact our roadmap is this just massive beast of even being in the demo room, listening to you and other folks playing. We're oh, that's a good thing. We should take note of that. Go put that on the list.
Tally needs a big trophy.
He needs the biggest trophy. Trophies break through the scale barrier. As part of what makes it really exciting, that we have the resources and time and team to be able to do big things.
Yep. I would say the whole process of developing housing has been really awesome, and I've loved how much we've been able to share as we've also been going through it and stuff. That's something that I feel like has been really new, and we can see the excitement of players, like just you mentioned. Sometimes, there's always challenges as we're building these things, and so seeing the excitement gives us a boost of energy, I feel like, because I love housing. So many of us love housing, and I think we're pouring our heart and soul into it and trying to make it something really awesome. And then seeing people's excitement is super cool. And then seeing what people will do with it once it's out there, it will be really crazy. Sometimes we'll just be like, wow, it's real, guys.
That's an awesome way to finish. Jesse, Rachel, thank you so much.
Thank you. This is great.